The Battle of Highbury is considered one of the most violent and brutal games of football ever played in England. To call it friendly is almost laughable, but yet it remains one of the most memorable matches of pre-war football ever played. In 1934, Italy had just won the second ever World Cup, in their own country no less. They were the rightful world champions and had proven it on the biggest stage. This feeling wasn't shared by everyone, however, particularly in England, where the World Cup was viewed with an overlooking sense of disdain. England, and all British teams for that matter, had sat out the previous two World Cups on account of not being members of FIFA due to a dispute over amateur players' payments. There was also a feeling in Britain, again particularly in England, that they were almost too good for the World Cup. They invented the sport after all, and there was basically no point in competing. Nevertheless, this friendly was an opportunity for England to show just how good they really were. But even then, they didn't take this match as seriously as you think. Every player on the pitch had no more than 10 caps to their name at the time of the match, including a young Stanley Matthews. Italy, on the other hand, were taking it very seriously indeed, so much so that Prime Minister Mussolini was offering every player an Alfa Romeo car and even exemption from military service if they won. A pretty good reward considering what the Prime Minister's friends were getting up to at that time. Viewed as the real World Cup final, the game took place on a cold, rainy November night in North London. Strangely enough, 7 Arsenal players had been selected for England, including Eddie Hapgood as captain, an international record that still stands to this day. Over 56,000 people crammed their way into Highbury to see the world champions, who included the legendary Giuseppe Meazza. No, the player, not the stadium, obviously. The game kicked off, and within 60 seconds, England had a penalty which was subsequently saved by goalkeeper Ceresoli. But 2 minutes later, Eric Brook, who had just missed the penalty, made up for his error and put England ahead. Then the fireworks started. Monty went into a challenge with centre-forward Ted Drake and came out with a broken foot. He tried to play on, but it proved disastrous for the Italians. As he hobbled around, England scored twice in 3 minutes, one from Brook and one from Drake. An important thing to remember here is that substitutions were not allowed at this point in international football, and as such, Monty had to leave the field after 15 minutes, but the damage had already been done. Italy completely went for Drake and his teammates after this, suspecting that he deliberately set out to injure them. Hapgood had to leave the field not long after England's third on the 15-minute mark on account of a broken nose. He even noted in his autobiography that the Italians were kicking everyone and everything in sight. At half-time, there was some respite from the madness, and England still led 3-0. The second half was an entirely different story, however. Italy started showing a bit of class and style, with 2 quick-fire goals from Meazza within 4 minutes of each other. England then had a real scare as Meazza struck the bar, and there was genuine concern that the world champions could actually embarrass them here. Goalkeeper Frank Moss, playing his final game for England, wasn't lying down, however, as he produced a number of great saves to deny Italy time and time again. Meazza then had what he described as the greatest regret of his life, as he was unmarked in the box in the final minute, but his teammates didn't find the pass, and the chance, and ultimately the match, was gone. Wilf Copping, the Vinnie Jones of his day, secured the Man of the Match award for a gutsy and typically strong display in England's rearguard. He was the only one who seemed to revel in the blood and thunder atmosphere of the game. The final score of England 3, Italy 2 doesn't even begin to tell half the story. England's goal-scoring debutant Ted Drake was seen with a gouged leg, a swollen jaw, and 2 black eyes after being punched. His centre-forward partner, Brook, had his arm broken. Inside right, Ray Bowden had an injured ankle, centre-half Jack Barker had to have his hand strapped, right-back George Mayle had a broken hand, and Italy goalkeeper Ceresoli had a groin injury and is said to have looked rather pale at the post-match event. This match was so violent that it drew widespread debate about whether England should withdraw from international football altogether. Yes, England had won, but it was the perceived dirty play from the Italians that made the headlines, as is clear from the report from the front of a newspaper that day. England could claim moral superiority, proving that yes, indeed, they were the best in the world, and Italy claimed their own moral victory, taking what was a very good England team all the way, with 10 men for the majority of the game. They are remembered as the Lions of Highbury for their gutsy efforts. Hapgood and Matthews both agree that this was the most violent match they ever played in. The Italian manager, Pozzo, claimed that Ponti's injury was the entire reason the Italians lost. In the end, it settled absolutely nothing. England still thought themselves as the best in the world, and Italy came out with their heads held high after a rallying second half, putting into question the legitimacy of England's claims. One of the great things about looking back on games like this is that they're so unique. Yes, there were games before and after that had violent scenes, injuries, sending offs and so on, but none can surely match the absolute madness of this game. There's a reason why it's still remembered, even today.